The story begins, a girl on a sidewalk kneeling on the floor. The girl is deep in thought, asking herself, why do I want to change myself? Wondering, will it help me find a place in school? A blonde guy with a lemon soda approaches her, and with that, we are introduced to our main characters, Kai and Uka. The scene shifts to where we see Kai heading to school. His friends join him, and they start talking about honey lemon soda, which is actually a drink. Then, our other main character, Uka Ishimori, shows up and starts looking at Kai. Suddenly, two boys make fun of Kai's hair. In response, Kai shakes his honey lemon soda bottle vigorously and sprays it on them, but instead of hitting those boys, the soda lands on Uka's face. Everyone is shocked, and the two boys run away. Uka thinks to herself, Kai, why did you do that? Then Ayumi, one of their classmates, goes over to Uka, asks if she's okay, and calls for a towel. Uka, surprised that someone is actually talking to her and even showing concern, doesn't know what to do. Ayumi calls Kai over and asks him to apologize. Kai simply says, sorry. Ayumi tries to explain that he's just a bit weird. Uka looks at Kai, blushes, says a shy sorry, and runs off, leaving everyone confused about why she apologized. Later, Satoru, another friend, says, it feels like we've seen her before. That's when Ayumi reveals that her name is Uka Ishimori and that she's in their class. Uka heads to the dressing room to change and thinks about how she's never had a good school experience. In junior high, kids used to call her Stony, like a stone, because she had no friends and never reacted to anything. When Uka walks back to her classroom, she reflects on how, despite everything, today felt good. She resolves to enjoy her high school life. Soon, the class teacher enters, and everyone stands up. The teacher notices that both Kai and Uka are still wearing their gym clothes and asks why. Kai casually explains, we got soda spilled on us. The teacher laughs and says, you two started causing trouble first thing in the morning, huh? Later, on her way home, Uka thinks, we didn't even go to the same junior high, and he probably doesn't even know me, but I've known him since before coming to this school. She remembers the last winter of junior high when she first noticed his golden hair. It reminded her of lemon soda. When Uka reaches home, her mom asks, honey, how was your day? Uka replies, it was good. Her mom says, you should bring your friends here someday. Uka hesitates but agrees. Her dad then says, it's not too late to change schools if you want. Uka immediately shouts, no, I like it here. The next day, Uka feels excited. She arrives early at school before anyone else and practices saying good morning to herself. She even shouts it in the empty classroom, only for Kai to walk in and hear her. Realizing what she's doing, Kai understands that she's trying to overcome her hesitation. He says, good morning. Uka freezes, standing silently. Kai teases her. Are you ignoring me? Flustered, Uka quickly replies, no. Kai then gets her to say good morning back, which makes her feel really good. Later, the teacher asks Ayumi a question, but she doesn't know the answer. The teacher tells her to stay after school and solve it, adding, ask one of your friends. Not that I expect any of them to know the answer. Uka realizes she's already solved that question in her notebook. Gathering her courage, she offers her notebook to Ayumi and explains how she got the answer. The entire class claps and praises Uka for her help. During lunch, Ayumi thanks her, and that's when Uka's story truly begins to change. Ayumi introduces herself and even invites them to hang out with her, which makes her really happy. Just as she's about to head outside, she hears voices. Look, isn't that Stony? I thought she transferred to sensei school, but it looks like she failed. They mention the only thing good about her is her brains. It turns out these are the same people who used to bully Uka in junior high, calling her Stony because she never talked to anyone or showed any expression. Hearing these words, Uka runs away crying. One of Kai's friends asks, did she really fail the sensei school test? Satoru replies, maybe she chose to come here. But Kai says, no way someone would choose a third-level school. Uka becomes deeply upset and heads to the library. She writes on a piece of paper, I have to change. Kai suddenly shows up and says, you always write this. Why do you put so much pressure on yourself? Uka wonders, what is he doing in the library? As Kai starts to leave, Uka apologizes. He responds, stop saying sorry all the time. Later, the same bullies throw Uka's shoes into the trash can, mocking her. Be Stony, shoes belong in the trash anyway. Uka feels even worse and thinks, nothing has changed. Why does it hurt even more now? Just then, Kai shows up and says, you're not reacting at all. Go and ask someone for help. Lost in her thoughts, Uka wonders, who should I go to? If I had passed the sensei test, I would have had a good school life. She walks away, leaving her thoughts unanswered. A teacher reassures Uka's parents. Don't worry, with her grades, she could have easily gone to sensei school. Your daughter is the only student capable of that. Uka's mom feels proud, but we learned the truth. Uka didn't want to change her environment. She wanted to change herself. That's why she chose to attend Hachimitsu High School. One day, Uka bumps into those bullies again. They mock her, saying, you were going to sensei school? That uniform doesn't suit you at all. They walk away, but Kai, who has been watching from a distance, comes over, picks up her papers, and says, This uniform will look good on you. Even if I were in your place, I'd make the same choice. He hands her the papers and walks away. Uka, watching him, thinks, a boy I've never met before. He's so kind and beautiful. Then she starts crying, like she always does. On the day of the sensei school entrance test, Uka skips it. Meeting Kai made her decide to attend his school instead. She believes Kai doesn't remember that day, but he does. Later, Uka buys a bottle of lemon soda, but the bullies corner her again. I'm hungry. Go buy something for us. Get me a sausage and hurry up. Uka starts opening her bag. One of them asks, are you taking out your wallet? But instead of her wallet, Uka pulls out the bottle of lemon soda and sprays it all over them. Kai and his friends, watching from a distance, see everything. One of the bullies shoves Uka, making her fall. That's when Kai steps in and says, wow, what a move. Then he turns to Uka and asks, so tell me, what did we talk about yesterday? Uka remembers that Kai told her to ask someone for help. Realizing he wanted her to ask him for help, Uka, crying, finally does. Kai stands up to the bullies. Hey, ugly. If you mess with her again, you'll have to deal with me. One of the bullies, scared, replies, what do you mean by that? Then they all run away. Uka, as always, starts crying again. Kai tells her, stand up, stop crying on the ground, especially on the sidewalk. At that moment, Uka realizes Kai remembers that day after all. She says sorry again, and Kai tells her, stop saying sorry all the time. The next day, some girls are talking about how cool Kai is, and seeing them, Uka starts thinking about what happened yesterday. Later, when she sees Kai while entering the classroom, she softly says, good morning, but Kai stops her and tells her to say it louder. Embarrassed, Uka shouts, good morning. Next, we see Uka at the basketball court. Takamine jokes that she's turned into a complete statue again. Uka thinks to herself, in PE, I always just stand around. No one ever wants to include me, and I guess today will be no different. Meanwhile, Kai walks over and whispers something to Ayumi. During the game, Ayumi purposely passes the basketball to Uka and encourages her to take a shot. Uka dodges everyone and scores a basket, leaving everyone amazed. The other girls gather around her, praising her. Outside, Kai notices Uka's dad talking to a teacher, asking them to look after Uka. Meanwhile, Satoru asks Uka why she chose this school. Uka explains that she thought this school would be the best for her. She saw the students here having fun and loved the freedom they had, so she decided to join. Hearing this, Ayumi laughs, saying she also chose this school because there's less studying to do. Then Takamine jokingly asks Uka, what do you even want to do here? Uka replies, I just want to pass time while heading home, and I'd like to stay out until the moon is up. That's when Kai interrupts from behind and says, forget it. Do you think you're meant for things like this? Just give up. Everyone is stunned, but Kai walks away after saying that. Later, Ayumi teases Kai, saying, don't you think you're being a bit harsh on Uka? Kai just brushes it off, asking, what's the problem? Meanwhile, Uka thinks to herself, Kai's right. Not all of my dreams will come true. Only a few of them are actually possible. While lost in thought, Uka looks out the window and notices a fight breaking out outside. Kai, along with his friends, also spots the same three bullies from before. They're planning to bring thugs to the school to teach Kai and Uka a lesson. Back in the classroom, Uka hears some voices outside. Two guys enter her classroom looking for her. Panicking, Uka hides, but they manage to find her. One of them grabs her hand and starts dragging her away. That's when Uka remembers Kai's words, go and ask someone for help. Gathering her courage, Uka screams for Kai. Out of nowhere, Kai shows up and throws one of the guys to the ground to scare them off. He picks up a desk and hurls it at the board. He then says, so you were looking for me and Uka? Well, I'm here now. Tell me, what do you want? Kai intimidates them so much that they run away in fear. Kai then looks at Uka and says, if your dad saw this, he'd probably faint. Uka is shocked to realize that her dad had actually come to school earlier. Kai tells her to head home and adds, your dreams are so small that I'll make them come true easily. Hearing this, Uka realizes that Kai genuinely cares about her. She thinks to herself, maybe I'm in love with Kai. The next day, Ayumi shows up wearing earrings, and Satoru compliments her. Seeing this, Uka wonders, does Ayumi like Satoru? Then, looking at Kai, she thinks, Kai just sees me as a burden. It's obvious from his expression. Uka decides that she won't be a burden to Kai anymore. She leaves the classroom, and when Kai notices she's gone, he starts wondering where she is. Meanwhile, Uka is looking at herself in the mirror, but then her old classmates show up, mock her, and leave. Just then, Takamine pats her head and says, we're a little late, aren't we? On the other hand, Kai is visibly angry because Uka left for home early. Takamine teases him, saying, Kai wanted to hang out with you after school. Kai reminds Uka about his promise to help her achieve her dreams, but Uka, surprised, says, I thought you were joking. Kai replies, I'd never joke about something this serious. Then he tells her to come along quickly, which makes Uka super happy. However, she wonders, doesn't Kai feel embarrassed being with me? Kai, noticing her silence, calls her stony and asks her to at least say something. Takamine steps in, calming Kai down. Then Takamine asks Uka how long she can stay out. Kai starts leaving since there's only half an hour left. Panicking, Uka apologizes repeatedly to stop him. Seeing this, Takamine remarks, "You know, Kai rarely gives attention to girls. Don't overthink this, Uka. It's a rare chance." Kai adds, "I'm not doing this as a joke." Then Takamine offers to drop Uka home, but she declines. She asks if they're heading somewhere, to which Takamine says they're going to karaoke, and Ayumi and Satoru are already waiting for them. Uka decides to walk with them to the entrance. On the way, Kai asks Uka where she lives. She says, "Near the pedestrian bridge." Kai responds, "All right, I'll walk with you to the bridge." As they walk, Uka thanks him twice, to which Kai says, "Once is enough." Uka smiles and tells him, "No matter how many times I say it, it's never enough for you." Kai then asks, "What do you think of yourself?" Uka replies, "I still feel like a stone." Kai says, "How long are you going to keep thinking that? If you're going to sit with this thought, then you might as well become a stone. But tell me, what are you hiding from me? Like how you're actually not bad at basketball?" Uka nervously says, "That was just an accident." Kai responds, "If you try, you can achieve a lot. Sure, I talked to you that day, but that was just the springboard. You're the one who jumped so high. You need to let go of your old self. Yeah, you might be a stone, but you're a gemstone." Hearing this, Uka is stunned. Kai tells her it's okay to be greedy sometimes and tells her, "All those who look down on you, just know you're better than them." Uka thinks to herself, "The nickname that once crushed me is now turning into treasure." Uka then says to Kai, "I've just thought of a dream that might take time to achieve, but I promise I won't be a burden to you anymore." Kai, hearing this, puts his cap on Uka's head and says, "If anyone sees us, they'll think I'm bullying you." After saying that, he walks away. As Kai leaves, Uka starts to run, thinking, "Everything he says and does leaves me breathless. I'll never meet someone like Kai again. I don't even deserve his love." Meanwhile, Takamine remarks, "Uka listens to everything you say." Kai replies, "I just talked to her once, and now she's oddly attached to me. You were the one who encouraged her to open up, so now you're everything to her. And yet, she's so cute." Back to Uka. She thinks, "I want to become confident enough to tell him that I love him." Uka wakes up thinking about everything that happened and heads to school. At school, the class teacher announces that it's time to change everyone's seats. Uka is shocked to hear this, and suddenly remembers that she hasn't said something to Ayumi yet. Then, she recalls what Kai said the other day, "Go and be greedy." So, she grabs Ayumi and asks, "Will you be my friend?" Ayumi laughs and says, "Weren't we already friends?" She explains that she's always considered Uka a friend. At that moment, their teacher hands them slips to draw new seat numbers. Satoru gets seat number 6, and Ayumi gets seat number 3. Ayumi starts crying when she realizes her seat is far from Satoru's. Uka notices and asks, "Ayumi, do you want to switch seats with me? This way, your seat won't be far from his." Ayumi blushes but refuses. Uka then says she really wants a front row seat and asks again. This time, Ayumi agrees and switches with her. Uka notices that her new seat has Takamine sitting to her left and Kai on her right. Realizing this, she starts to panic. The next day, Uka greets Ayumi with a cheerful "good morning" before heading back to her seat. Ayumi wonders if Uka came back just to say good morning and starts laughing to herself. Meanwhile, Uka sits at her desk thinking, "I can't even look to my left or right, especially not to my right." During class, another girl comments to Kai, "Uka is frozen stiff." Even the teacher notices and suggests changing Uka's seat. Before Uka can respond, Kai interrupts and says she doesn't need to change her seat. Uka agrees with him, and the teacher lets it go. Then a boy behind them asks Kai, "Are you dating Uka or something?" Kai answers, "I'm just helping her." Another boy chimes in saying, "Even if you were, she's not Kai's type." Hearing this, Uka starts thinking, "I don't know anything about Kai's dating history. Honestly, I barely know anything about him at all." Suddenly, Kai tells the English teacher, "The sheet you gave Uka is torn," then tells him, "You should give her another one." He gave her a new sheet, and Uka looked at Kai and said thank you. In the next class, Kai is caught sleeping at the front desk. The teacher throws a duster at him, but Kai catches it midair. The whole class starts clapping for him. The teacher notices Uka clapping as well and teases her. "Uka, you're clapping too?" A boy jokes, "Maybe Uka is just like us." Another girl adds, "We thought she'd judge us for being disruptive, but she's nothing like that." Kai stands up and says, "You guys have it all wrong. It's like looking at a beehive. It seems simple on the outside, but it's impressive on the inside. That's why it's fun to learn about it." Later, a girl says hey to Uka, and Uka bows back in a traditional Japanese style, which makes Kai laugh. Uka felt embarrassed and asked Kai how she should have responded. He says, "You should have replied with hey too." Takamine steps in, telling Kai to stop teasing Uka. Kai replies, "I'm not teasing her." Kai then told Uka, "Now that I told everyone you're cool, you better not let me down, then told her, I will keep my eye on you. Yuka starts thinking about returning Kai's cap. Meanwhile, her friends talk about how Kai has suddenly disappeared. Yuka starts looking for him and eventually sees a honey lemon soda bottle outside a room. She peeks inside and notices a pair of legs, which scares her, but it turns out to be Kai, who's asleep there. Kai wakes up and Yuka says, you scared me. Kai sarcastically asks, I scare you? Just then, Kai's other friends show up looking for him. Kai quickly says, stay quiet and go shut the door. Yuka asks, people say you disappear sometimes. Do you always come here? Kai replies, not always, but I come here when I feel sleepy. Yuka thinks to herself that she disturbed his nap. Kai then asks, why are you here? Yuka answers, I was looking for you, and then I saw the honey lemon soda bottle. Kai smiles and says, this is the first time someone has actually found me. Yuka then hands him his cap back. Kai looks at it and asks, did you wash it? Yuka nervously says, was I not supposed to? Kai replies, no, it's not that. Yuka adds, I just thought you always wear this cap, so it must be important to you. She sits down next to him, wondering why Kai always wears that cap. Kai explains, when I wake up, my hair is a total mess. That's why I started wearing the cap, and now it's a habit. As he says this, he gets a little embarrassed. Yuka laughs, thinking it's funny that Kai would blush over something so small. Later, when they return, his friends ask, where were you this whole time? Was Yuka with you? At least tell us where you were. Kai responds, being around everyone exhausts me. Then, a girl asks Yuka, where was Kai? But before Yuka can answer, Kai grabs her hand and pulls her away. This moment makes Yuka fall even more in love with him. The next scene is a school trip to welcome the new students. Everyone notices Yuka because she's the only one wearing gym clothes. Ayumi comes over and says, I should have worn gym clothes too. Meanwhile, some girls are chatting about a tree where the sky looks heart-shaped from underneath. Satoru hears this and says to Ayumi, let's go there too. Ayumi pulls Yuka aside and says, don't overthink it. It doesn't mean anything. He doesn't understand romance at all. Yuka glances at Kai and thinks he's just pretending to be cool. And yeah, maybe my outfit is a little too weird today. Kai tells Takamine, Yuka's outfit is impressive. Takamine laughs and says, don't make fun of her. Kai replies, I'm not making fun of her. It actually suits her character. She probably spent the whole night thinking about what to wear, and this is what she chose. A girl then asks Yuka, hey Mountaineer, where are we supposed to go? Yuka says, we have to go right. The girl laughs and says, I was just joking, referring to when she called her Mountaineer. Suddenly, Yuka has a flashback of a girl bumping into her and saying, I just bumped into something weird, maybe a stone. But in this class, nothing like that happens to her anymore. At that moment, a girl is running around with Kai's hat. A boy nearby says, you should just keep it. He has plenty of caps anyway. They all start talking about why Kai wears caps. They wonder why he started wearing them, and Yuka almost tells them, but stops when Kai covers her mouth and says, that's just for you to know. Don't tell anyone. Yuka wonders why Kai told her such a personal thing. Later, while they're all having lunch, a boy notices some girls staring at the sky and asks, why are they staring up like that? Satoru replies, they're looking at the heart shape in the sky. One boy comments, Kai's face clearly shows he thinks this is nonsense. Satoru adds, Kai's been here before with another girl though. Hearing this, Yuka is shocked. Later, the group reaches a turning point on the trail when it suddenly starts raining. Everyone starts running around in panic. Kai tells them to stop running. Yuka then tells them she thinks they are lost after all. Two girls start blaming Yuka. In her defense, Ayumi says it's not her fault, and how can they even say that? After this, everyone starts stressing about how they'll get home. Meanwhile, Yuka runs off to find the way. Seeing this, Kai follows her. Yuka starts blaming herself when Kai finds her. She looks sad and says, what should I do? I can't even do anything properly. What if we can't make it back home? Hearing this, Kai hugs her and tells her everything's fine, but Yuka pushes him away. Just then, she notices a bridge in front of her, the same one that's on her map. That means she's found the way, so Kai goes back to call the others. Now because of the rain, they all take shelter under the bridge. Those two girls come up to Yuka and apologize. Then Yuka takes out some towels and water from her bag and shares them with the same two girls. Seeing this, the other kids start praising her. Kai comes up to Yuka and offers her a honey lemon soda. He then tells her, I bet you didn't save any drink for yourself. Here, take this. Kai says he already drank some. Yuka immediately refuses, saying if you drank from it already, I can't drink it. Kai tells her to stop being fussy. She then lowered herself, saying she thinks it's too good for her. Then she starts wondering why she even said that. Kai tells her, you're exhausted. Your brain isn't working properly. Meanwhile, the other kids start talking about the heart-shaped rock. They say if someone sees it with their crush, their wish will come true. Later, they all head back home. Yuka is sitting on the bus looking at a rainbow outside, when Kai suddenly sits beside her and says, they're making so much noise. I can't even sleep in peace. Then he rests his head on her shoulder and calls it a pillow. Yuka starts feeling nervous, but Kai tells her to relax. She thinks to herself, all these feelings I'm having, it's all because of Kai, but I kind of like it. After reaching home, Uka hands her dad her bag and thanks him. He asks about her day, and she happily says it was really fun. The next day, Uka runs to school happily. When Uka arrives in class, she finds her desk covered with gifts. The girls come up to her and apologize, saying, "Sorry for filling up your desk, but this is a thank you gift from us for yesterday." Uka feels really happy and thinks her high school life is going great. Just then, Kai walks into the classroom. Uka starts looking at him, so Kai says, "I didn't bring anything for you, so don't look at me." Uka replies, "I don't need anything." Then one of the girls calls Uka to the back and tells her that her picture with the heart-shaped rock got a lot of likes. After that, they show her another picture, and Uka asks, "Who's this?" They reveal that it's none other than Kai. Uka and the other girls are shocked. The girl explains that the pictures are from last year's yearbook, and she'll bring it tomorrow. Then they ask Uka about her junior high yearbook, but suddenly she remembers that something really bad happened to her last year. The girls apologize and say that she doesn't have to because they can see and tell something's off. Yuka just smiles and says, "Thank you, sorry." Meanwhile, Kai is watching this conversation from a distance. At home, Uka starts searching for her yearbook and eventually finds it, but she realizes that she hasn't opened it in a long time. The next day, all the girls gather and start looking at the old yearbook photos together. Then, Uka arrives and sees that everyone is looking at Ayumi, Takamina, and Satoru's pictures. Just then, a guy walks up and starts complimenting someone's picture. Her name is Serena Kano, and she's really pretty. And guys, guess what? She's none other than Kai's ex-girlfriend. Then they all start looking at Kai's pictures from last year's trip, but in all of them, his face has no expression at all. Uka starts thinking, yesterday they were avoiding my past, and with that thought, she leaves. Kai notices Uka running off somewhere. She goes to the rooftop and thinks, if they see my past, it'll be really embarrassing. So she decides that when she gets home, she'll seal this book away along with all her junior high memories. But just then, Kai snatches the book from her and starts flipping through it. He says, "I thought you ran off because you had a really bad photo in here, but these look normal." Uka replies, "I didn't show them because I don't have any good memories. That's why I've decided to forget everything from back then." Kai tells her, "Don't you dare forget who you are today is because of your junior high experiences. And as you saw yesterday, the class showed you that who you are is good." He suggests showing the photos to everyone, but Uka says she'll do it herself. Before leaving, Kai hands her a candy. Uka says, "I didn't give you anything," referring to under the bridge earlier. Kai smirks. "This is a prize for your great efforts." Later, Takamina brings Murin to Uka. Murin confesses that she was the one who changed the signboard on the trip because she noticed that Kai and Uka were getting too close. Takamina warns Uka that others might start feeling the same way, since Kai doesn't give attention to anyone except her. Then he bluntly asks, "Do you really think you're making progress? Or are you still the same, always relying on Kai to pull you out of trouble?" Hearing this, Uka leaves, feeling like coming here was a mistake. Back in class, everyone is asking Kai about Serena, but Kai tells them all to shut up. Seeing this, Uka leaves again. The next day, Uka has a fever. Her mom tells her to rest and goes to get some fruit for her. Uka wonders if her friends are worried about her. Then her mom comes back and says, "You got a call from a friend named Ayumi." Hearing this, Uka feels happy, but when she picks up the phone, she realizes it's not Ayumi, it's Kai. Hearing Kai's voice, Uka gets flustered. Kai casually says, "Ayumi was asking if you're coming out with us." Then he notices Uka has a cold and tells her to stay home. He doesn't want her getting sicker. After that, Kai asks her about the nearest station. Confused, Uka goes outside and sees that they're all standing right outside her house. Kai simply says, "Come to school tomorrow," and leaves. The next day, their class teacher brings in the trip photos. The students start noticing that Kai is only smiling in a few pictures, and in every single one of them, Uka is there with him. Ayumi walks up to Uka and says, "Kai smiles a lot when he's with you." Uka starts feeling awkward. Then, Satoru starts showing Kai the pictures. Kai looks at them and casually says, "You look really cute when you smile." Satoru is shocked. Kai actually complimented a girl. Then someone's phone falls down the stairs. Uka catches it. When she looks at the phone's gallery, she sees pictures of Kai. And guess what? The phone belongs to Kai's ex-girlfriend. The next day, Uka is in deep thought, contemplating Serena, Kai's ex-girlfriend, who has become the hot topic at school. Uka learns from Ayumi that Kai and Serena were once together in their third year of junior high, but their relationship ended abruptly before high school. This knowledge stirs a sense of rivalry between Uka and Serena. Uka is puzzled as to why someone like Kai would break up with such an amazing girl. The teacher announces that the school culture festival is in 3 weeks, while also reminding the class that midterms are just 3 days away. Ayumi complains about her lack of math notes, and Satoru mocks her, saying that even with notes, she wouldn't understand. Despite this, Uka Uka offers to lend her notes, and they decide to have a group study session. Satoru suggests turning it into a study dinner. At the restaurant, Uka is surprised to see that Kai has joined them. When Ayumi and Satoru step out to get drinks, Uka and Kai are left alone. She feels anxious about starting a conversation and debates whether to ask him about his past with Serena, but hesitates. Before she can decide, Serena enters the restaurant with her friends. One of the girls recognizes Kai and refers to him as Serena's ex, making Serena visibly uncomfortable. Uka recalls Ayumi's earlier words and begins to understand that things between Kai and Serena are far more complicated than they seem. The tension rises when two of Serena's friends approach Kai, pressing him about his breakup with Serena. Kai remains silent, and one of the girls turns to Satoru for an answer, but he dismisses them, saying he's not interested. Meanwhile, Ayumi brings up Uka's curfew, and the girls mock her, questioning whether she even has any friends and laughing at her. Uka feels humiliated, but Serena, angered by their behavior, spills her drink on them. The girls immediately turn on Serena, mocking her in retaliation. Ayumi comments that spilling the drink on them was therapeutic, and Serena agrees. As Serena heads home, Uka tells her, "I'm sorry, thank you." Serena responds, "No, I'm sorry." Uka then thinks to herself, Serena is cool. Why would she stand up for me when she barely knows me? Later, the girls who had been picking on Serena return, attempting to stir up more trouble. However, Serena stands her ground. In a surprising moment, Uka takes a slap intended for Serena and bravely defends her from the bullying. Serena expresses concern for Uka, but Uka reassures her that she was just protecting her. Kai soon arrives, impressed by Yuka's courage. He intervenes, scolds the girls, and diffuses the situation. Before leaving, he offers Serena his hoodie and tells her to call him if anything like this happens again. As Serena follows him, Uka watches, feeling a twinge of discomfort. Soon after, Takamine approaches Uka and asks, "Does your face hurt?" She insists she's fine, but deep down, she's visibly hurt. Not just by the slap, but also by everything happening between Kai and Serena. Later, the girls who had bullied Serena apologize to both Serena and Uka. Serena assures Uka that they're not truly bad people, and that she can handle them on her own. She also apologizes for dragging Uka into the situation. Uka responds modestly, shaking her head in a cute way. Serena mentions Kai's hoodie. She mentions that she washed it and hopes he doesn't hate her detergent. Hearing this, Uka reflects on how naturally Serena and Kai interact. It doesn't seem like there's any awkwardness between them at all. As Uka walks back to class, Yuru ties her hair into a ponytail, commenting that it would look cute on her. Uka wonders when the last time was that she wore a ponytail. Kai then tells her, "Your circle of friends is getting bigger. Looks like you'd do fine without me." This makes Uka wonder if Kai no longer needs her in his life, and she questions whether she should stop following him. Later, a boy asks the teacher if he can tell them what's on the test. The teacher responds, "If you've been taking notes, you'll be fine." The boy groans, "You know I never take notes." After class, Uka offers him her notes, but the boys laugh it off. One of them tells her not to take everything they say seriously, while another says he was just improvising and riding the vibe. Uka is confused and wonders, what is vibe? The girls scold the boys, saying, "You know, Uka doesn't know what that is." Later, as Uka is walking, she sees a group of boys questioning Kai about Serena. Disappointed, she turns to leave, but Kai catches up with her and simply says, "I'm feeling sleepy." They walk to their usual spot. Uka tells Kai that she will wake him up when the bell rings and wonders if he only sees her as an alarm. Still, she thinks, well, at least I'm a little useful. Kai then asks Uka if it's true that she's used to being slapped. She denies it, but he gently touches her cheek, saying, "It's swollen. It must have hurt." Uka is shocked by his touch. Kai then tells her that her face is beet red. He instructs her to wake him up when it's time. Overwhelmed by her emotions, Uka tells him she will come back later. Afterward, Serena and her friends ask Uka where Kai is. Serena confidently guesses that he's probably sleeping in the storage room, shocking Uka. Serena then confides in her, revealing something personal. "Don't tell anyone," she says. Uka agrees, replying, "Kano, you're an exception." Serena corrects her, telling her not to address her so formally and to call her Serena instead. The two share a brief heart-to-heart. Later, a boy brings up an old photo of Kai on Serena's phone. Annoyed by the invasion of privacy, Serena defends herself. Kai arrives, and the boy asks why he broke up with Serena, urging him to date her again. Yuru chimes in, mentioning that she also has a photo of Kai, and that rumors say keeping one makes you popular. Serena returns Kai's hoodie, stating that she only snapped the picture for someone else. This sparks a small discussion about the rumor. Everyone then starts picking which traits they would want from others if taking a picture of someone really granted their personality traits. One of the girls asks Uka who she would choose, but before Uka can respond, Kai steps in, describing Uka as self-deprecating, honest, caring, courageous, and an overthinker. Kai also praises Uka's ponytail, telling Yuru Try styling her hair like this again sometime. Uka is stunned when Kai admits, I liked it. Afterward, Kai leaves, saying he's sleepy, and Uka collapses, exhausted, as she reflects on how her legs gave up from the emotional roller coaster. It's useless to be good only at studies or to do only what I can do. When the teacher announces the end of midterms and turns attention to the culture festival, Uka surprises everyone, including Kai, by volunteering for a job. She thinks to herself, I'll do more new things until I feel I can genuinely stand by my friend's side. Yuka's classmates were seriously impressed when she stepped up to volunteer for the cultural festival committee. Kai, in his usual cool but kind way, gave her a few encouraging words, while the rest of the class excitedly tossed around cafe theme ideas. Later that day, Uka told her parents all about it, and they weren't exactly shocked. She'd been having way too much fun at school lately for it to be a coincidence. She confirmed it, feeling grateful to Kai and the others for making school such a blast. Things took a turn when Uka attempted to transport way too many materials for the cafe on her bike and, surprise surprise, lost control. Thankfully, Kai swooped in just in time to save her from disaster. Turns out, Uka's super detailed proposal for their cafe was what won their class the opportunity in the first place. This even convinced some of the girls who had previously whined about collecting boxes to finally get on board. As the episode shifted focus back to Uka and Kai, they got into a conversation about why she was the one carrying all the materials. Kai, in typical fashion, dropped a cryptic comment about being an idiot who breaks adult rules, then dipped before she could pry any further. The next day, Yuka, predictably, attempted to carry all the boxes herself again, only to completely wipe out this time. That's when the same girls who initially refused to help had a change of heart. They apologized, pitched in, and fully committed to making the cafe a success. With everyone finally on the same page, Yuka's energy became infectious. Her enthusiasm spread through the class like wildfire, and she found herself bonding with her classmates in ways she never had before. At one point, they even joked that she finally understood vibes, which, let's be honest, is the highest of compliments in their world. Meanwhile, Ayumi stopped by Uka's class, where Seto joined in their conversation, completely oblivious to her obvious crush on him. As the festival approached, people speculated about possible new couples forming, including Ayumi and Seto. Uka, on the other hand, found herself thinking about Kai and Serena. They seemed like such a great match. But while she acknowledged how bright things felt around Kai, she realized that her world had brightened in other ways too, thanks to her new friends. That didn't mean her feelings for Kai had faded though. She just decided to focus on enjoying the festival, making the cafe a success, and maybe, just maybe, talking to Kai before it all ended. When the festival finally kicked off, the cafe was a massive hit. Uka rotated between roles, eventually finding herself dressed as a maid, running herself into the ground before finally catching a break. That's when she got the chance to watch the crazy cool presentation, featuring none other than Kai. But what really caught her off guard was his recorded message, "Leave Yuka to me." Cue internal screaming. While she was still trying to make sense of this, a group of girls cornered her, obviously dying to know what was going on between them. She quickly labeled him her caretaker, which seemed to satisfy them, until they pointed out that once she could stand on her own, he'd probably walk away. That hit a little too hard, and Yuka, feeling overwhelmed, retreated to the storage room where Kai often napped. Of course, he found her there, because where else would he go? She told him she'd seen his message in Crazy Cool, and tried, awkwardly, to express her emotions, blurting out that she'd talk to him all the time. Outside the storage room, some girls continued speculating about whether the two were dating. One confidently shut the idea down, claiming there was no way Kai would be into Uka. Kai stepped out with Uka, casually holding her hand as they walked past, making a very clear statement. Tomoya, who wasted no time grilling Kai about his intentions. Was he going to push Uka away before she became too attached? Or was he planning to protect her forever? Kai brushed it off, saying Tomoya was overthinking things. But Tomoya wasn't buying it, insisting that because it was Uka, it wasn't that simple. Uka, meanwhile, decided to just enjoy whatever time she had left with Kai, unsure of what the future held. Meanwhile, Ayumi's class had their performance, with Seto cheering her on from the front row. Uka then overheard Serena needed a last-minute replacement for the show, and, in a moment of regret-fueled boldness, volunteered herself. Regret hit instantly. As soon as she got on stage, people immediately recognized her as the famous Yuka. She awkwardly laughed at the MC's terrible jokes while thinking about how, if Serena had been up there instead, Kai would have probably jumped in to save her. And just like that, he did. Kai hopped on stage, told the MC that Yuka wasn't participating, and then casually dropped, "She'll be fine without me." Ouch. That one hurt. Tears welled up in Uka's eyes as she realized how much she wanted to stay close to him. But instead of crumbling, she made a silent promise to get stronger on her own. Kai, ever the enigma, responded to her emotions with a quiet but powerful, "I'll be watching the whole time." Tomoya, never one to let things slide, later teased Kai about how he claimed he had no romantic feelings for Uka. Kai, clearly fed up, shot back that it wasn't the point before immediately taking back what he said. Yeah, he was totally falling for her. And with that, the episode ended, leaving Uka and Kai's relationship more uncertain and more intriguing than ever.